Okay, let's talk sex.
Let's. Or no
Let's.
sex, depending on
Oh,
who's talking.
so true. Or no sex. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Or yearly sex. No, this is what we talked about, right? We didn't want to be those people.
Yeah.
We don't want to be the person that has sex once a year, obligatory to keep their husbands happy or wives happy, right? I don't want to be that
Yes.
person.
Well, and I don't know that once a year would keep anybody happy, but what you're talking about is really important. It's placating somebody to do
Mm,
something that doesn't quite resonate with you
right.
and doing it anyway. And so we could go back to using our vaginas as a tool, kind of being
Mm,
codependent in our relationship. And look, the truth is,
right.
I hope that all of us feel in attunement and love with our partner, that we want closeness and togetherness. But depending on where you're at in your life, in your body, in your own development, it may not be right to actually have sex, or maybe it's to not have intercourse. Anyway,
Hmm.
it's kind of a complicated world that we want to traverse for ourselves and to really support each other.
She's getting hot. She's taking her clothes off because she's talking about sex.
And I did
Okay.
check in with my vagina before we
Yes.
talked, and
Tell
my
me.
sense is she's around.
Hmm.
So,
She's
do you
been
want me?
more around, you said. And you had a little chit chat with her.
Yeah. Do you want to hear about my little breakthrough?
I do.
Okay. Maybe it's not a little breakthrough, it just happened.
Uh-uh. Hmm.
Okay. So, a background for anybody listening is that I just started yesterday recording professional podcast episodes through Professional Broadcast News Network, I believe it's called. And I was going to out myself about a big chapter of my life in the first episode, which is kind of starting off with a bang. And just a few years ago, it occurred to me very strongly that if I wanted to put the work out into the world that I was getting from spiritual sources, I needed to be willing to, quote, fully reveal, because the shame and fear that I had that made me want to hide my past was a bit suffocating, and I couldn't do both. I couldn't let myself be more out there to share, not about me, but the work, and
So the
also
work
try
that
to
you're
stay safe.
doing intuitively,
Yes.
the work that so that's what you're talking about, the
Thank you. Yeah.
intuitive readings, the teaching individuals how to be their own intuitive connection, etc. That work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And books and
you
yeah.
couldn't feel good about teaching somebody that if you weren't clear about who you were prior. Is that kind of what I'm getting?
That's a big part of it. And just what's
Okay.
coming in is the reminder that, like for all of us, you can't let people get close to you when you're working so hard to hide so much of yourself.
Mm.
So the context of shame really comes up.
Yeah.
Okay. So fast forward to 2 nights ago,
Hmm.
I had just finished all the preparing I felt like I could do, including telling about this chapter of my life where basically, and for all empaths, hold on, please don't connect with this energetically. Empath
Just hear it.
alert,
Yeah.
just hear
Just hear
it.
it.
So almost 30 years ago, so this was a long time ago and I'm fine,
Mhm.
but I was walking down the street minding my own business, and I was approached by a young woman who sparked my interest in getting my astrological chart read. I got introduced to a family member of hers who was a very talented psychic, but with a very deep agenda. I'll just say a very deep agenda. So she picked up on a lot of things about me, which sort of, it was interesting. I'd never met a psychic before. It's very intrusive in a way, right?
Mm.
To have somebody pick up on things, kind of intimidating, and it can make them seem very powerful. And that's what I thought about her. So when she said something, and she's somebody who gets real accurate information, in my mind, she's very powerful.
So
So
she was giving you insights, at, saying things that no one else would have known.
absolutely,
Right.
like deep,
Okay.
deep stuff, and picked up on some dark energy around me, some related to family, probably some of my own depression. And she gave me something that I realize now I was super lacking, which was hope. And hope is so powerful. So when she talked and said, I'm going to help you, basically, I'm a powerful psychic. I help people all the time. I'm such a kind person. I'm really generous. And if you don't tell anybody, because I'll die if you do, and you give me your full participation, and this might mean money, this will probably mean money. My work requires money, but I hate money. But if you are in, I will do what I can to help you. And I
Hmm.
felt like, oh my goodness, this woman is volunteering herself to do me this favor. And
Hmm.
what choice do I have? I'm kind of stuck here. I really felt very trapped by my negative thoughts about myself, etc. So, fast forward. So, that was the day we met. We developed a relationship. I learned to trust her. We had fun together. We had serious moments together. I ended up giving her money. Then I ended up giving her more money as she was doing all this work at the cemetery. My full time job's paycheck, that was pretty nice for somebody who just graduated from college, at some point wasn't enough. She encouraged me to get credit cards, get cash advances, make big purchases. Of course, not the intention of paying it back. When that wasn't enough, she encouraged me to become a dancer, which I thought she was crazy, but then I went home and did a little visual exercise and saw some stuff that was like, oh my God, I guess she's right.
Mm.
I did that for months. So I worked at a strip club in Manhattan in the Wall Street area. And then at some point I gained some weight and they're like, sorry, lady, come back when you lose the weight. And I told her, who now she's really dependent on this money. Goodness
And
only
you're
knows
really
what
dependent
she's
on her. I
very,
mean,
I
at
mean,
this point, from what I've heard about this story, is she was
Mhm.
really fulfilling a motherly kind of role, like taking you in, taking care of you, loving on you, checking on you, making sure you're okay. And by the way, I need some more money. So, but you had a very intimate relationship with her.
Thank you for saying all that. I mean,
Yeah.
that really does capture it. I mean, to me, I loved her. I cared about her. I believed in her. And she was really trying to help me. And I always had like a distant relationship with all of my family. So I didn't have that with anybody else. And I hadn't felt anything even like that in many years from my grandparents who were long past.
Right.
So she meant a lot to me.
Hmm.
And and I listened to her because also when I didn't or she felt like I was doubting, she would say, the spirits are telling me you're doubting. And she would really berate the crap out of me because she was almost dying to do this work and very
Right.
dramatic.
So
And
then
after the
she asks you to do more than just stripping.
yeah, so and my life was just a chaotic circus at that point. And then she said, well, like Mary, you're supposed to become a prostitute. And of course, I had my moment of shock. And then I'd been going along with everything. And I know it sounds weird, but it's like being on a roller coaster, getting caught up with anybody who's not well or unbalanced. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this about family members, partners. You get caught up and you're
Mm.
like living in that person's world.
Yeah.
So when she said that, I mean, I'm sure I didn't argue with her. I probably had a moment of resistance. And then I called an escort agency in Manhattan and I signed up. So I did that for several months as well. A lot of fallout came way after that, of course, but this was my closest relationship, kind of my only relationship for about a year and a half. That was a long time to get really sucked in.
And a very interesting relationship with your vagina started.
Now,
Mm.
sorry,
No, you're fine.
I feel very confident in all the digging that I've done since that I brought a lineage of sexual trauma energy here with me in this life. And I'm a huge avoider. Like I'm super good at avoiding. So I think I also really haven't gotten until very recently how much of an impact being an escort and
Mm.
doing that for months really would have taken its toll on my body. And there's layers of stuff. I think I was separated from my vagina and my sense of myself since I was born. And again, brought a lot of that in. So my intention, I guess, I'll have to have that conversation with that me that planned this trip,
Mm.
was to bring in the energy of others and myself to heal that, to transform and heal that energy. And a lot of us sign up for and are willing to be that person. I didn't realize it.
To help the past lives and to help the future lives process through the traumas that were present in those lives. Like, so
Yeah.
there's a whole concept of, if this is a new concept for listeners, it's epigenetics on steroids, basically. It's kind of how I look at it, right? It's the fact that our life here today and the choices that we make or the chains that we break or the bondage, all of that, the process, the progress that we make here today actually goes back
Mhm.
and positively affects all of the past lives that we've lived. And it positively affects all of the future lives that we'll live. And in addition to that, the individuals that interact with. So not just me, but the lineage, my kids, my kids' kids, my grandkids, my all of it. So never underestimate. That's basically what I'm saying. Never underestimate the power of the healing and journeying that you're doing here because the ripple effect is profound.
And it just, when you said our future lives, I'd never even thought that. That I was
Oh,
thinking future generations, but thank you for bringing that up because that makes me even a little more motivated. Although I really am motivated anyway.
you're pretty
But
motivated.
so, and yeah, and some people can look at this like the purpose of ancestral healing.
Yes.
We can go back and we can go forward. I have sent energy and healing energy to my grandmother from when she was young to help
Mhm.
her.
So
Yeah,
this is just a you broke that pattern. You got out of there. You're no longer doing that. This is 30 years ago. So for
30
everyone
years
that's
ago. Yeah.
listening, just to kind of put a wrap on that, one of the big reasons why you're so determined, I'm not sure if that's the right word, Noelle, but you're so powerfully passionate about being genuine, being honest, having ethics, and teaching others that they don't need someone like that woman, that they actually don't need you or me to connect with their spirit team. Now, we're here to connect with your spirit team and we will, but that's one of your purposes is empowering others to figure it out and to teach them that they can do it themselves. That's why you're so genuine about that.
Beautifully spoken. Thank you so much. And I am emphatic about that with people. I mean,
Emphatic.
I
It's
don't
a
want
good
to
word.
say that like now I have an agenda and the agenda, well, I want to empower you, but I have an agenda to empower. Like, not like that. It's for people who are interested. And look,
Right.
I love getting readings from other people. I love giving
Mm-hmm.
readings to other people, but it's
Mm-hmm.
that need. It's that I'm not enough. I can't connect. Everybody's more powerful than me that I felt that drove me to hitch all of my hope on this other human being because I didn't have it with myself. Now I'm going to fast forward
Mm-hmm.
to the night of June 10th, which was
Correct.
2 days
2 nights
ago.
ago. Mm-hmm.
So I finish all of my preparing for this podcast. I'm ready to share this news with the world. And there's an energy to that. I could really feel that. Like, F it, I'm jumping off the cliff. I'm not even
Mm-hmm.
thinking twice about it at this point in my life. I won't talk about all of the times I was doubting and scared,
Sure.
but here I am now. And I start to feel this energy in my vagina, which I feel once in a while. And it's not like when, if I remember correctly, what it feels like when you feel horny. It was actually like a ball of energy in that area. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt it about 4 times. Now I'm in bed and I'm looking to, because I'm feeling it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like if my grandmother was visiting me, I'm like, okay, what's going on? It's kind of late. I'm tired, but let's connect real quick. And the essence of why she was connecting with me was this huge, it felt like, celebration because I was at this point where I am not letting shame stop me and I am not hiding because of it. I don't know. I don't really know clearly bringing all this energy in. Like, what's the point? What am I supposed to do with it? How do I heal it? And what she told me was that in past generations, just of myself, where there was sexual trauma, which I think I've had in many lifetimes, as have a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
that I always hid. I got this visual of myself being this sort of shrunken old woman, wearing all black, having kind of sort of a gray feel about myself, and that that was a lifetime where I'd had sexual trauma, and I was not going to tell anybody, and I just was going to sort of wither away with that information inside of me, period. I'm not proud of having been a prostitute. I can make jokes about it now,
Now.
like as of today,
Right.
pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. So like 2 days ago.
Yeah,
So your vagina was very
it's true.
and I'm of course in my sicko head, I'm thinking of all of these other things to say, but we're not gonna go there, which I would think would be funny, and you'd probably be like, that's not funny.
No,
So,
actually, I love inappropriate humor, so fire away if you want to, but that's kind of not the point. Yeah.
so you connected with that energy of your vagina a couple nights ago, and she was because they popped into me. They were like, "It's a they." She's saying she, but it's a they. It's so funny. Remember when I read your vagina and they came in
Yeah.
as a they? But they were celebrating,
Yeah.
and you've talked the story that you just told. If someone's listening to it now and then they go back and listen to the other podcast episodes, a lot of the reasoning behind some of the word choices that you used in previous episodes make a lot of sense now, knowing your story, the backstory,
Yeah.
the
Gotcha.
shame concept, the prickly thorns that I talked about when I said I read your vagina and there were these thorns that had to get pulled out. But all of that makes a lot more sense now that you've told your story. And I knew that story, but we didn't feel like in the beginning that was good to talk about. And now your vagina is celebrating the fact that you're open about it, which is great.
Sorry, and I just get the sense of like, ta-da, like,
Well, and when I read, you sent me that little story that you had on June 10th previous. And when I was reading it, my vagina started like, yeah, I got like the little vibrator in there, like that feeling. I didn't get a vibrator in there, which is definitely a topic that we should discuss. That was actually something that popped into my head when you said you felt your vagina energy, ball of energy. And I thought to myself, when that happens with me, I just reach my hand down there and do a little masturbating.
yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe I should talk to her first and then be like, okay, you want to have an orgasm? Is that what you're really telling me right now? Or is there a message that you have for me? Not just go to orgasm. Hmm.
So I'm not sure exactly why, and I'll just
Hmm.
try to pick up on it. But now I'm just feeling a lot of like intensity and emotion around what you just shared. So we'll see what comes out of that because I did ground and plug in before we met.
Yeah.
But there are times when have felt that, let's say in the last 2 years or year, that I've been really trying to connect more with my vagina.
Hmm.
And when I feel that energy, I ask, what are you up for?
Right.
And it's been very interesting to
Uh-huh.
connect with her. And I could get sort of in the complicated layers of stuff. I used her as a tool. I used her as a tool for myself for years with this
Hmm.
plug-in vibrator, I mean, heavy duty stuff, to help me sleep every night. But that was also using her as a tool. Even though
Oh,
it's my
right.
body, did I care 1 ounce of anything about what was right or how that felt to, no. She was like a sleep aid.
I'm not, I would imagine that a good 99% of listeners have never said, oh, hold on.
Yeah,
I'm going to have a conversation with my vagina before I move forward into any sexual or pleasure activities. I,
yeah.
I would, I mean, please send us an email at vaginawhispering at
If you're the
gmail.com
1%.
if you were the 1%, because I'd love to hear from you. What were you going to say?
Well, but now here's the thing. I don't think people should do that. I'm not suggesting that they do, but for me, because I have violated her in all these different kinds of ways, past and current, past lives, past in this life,
Sure.
I I feel that is actually what I need to do because I need to have a relationship with respect to that part of my body, and I haven't before.
But don't we all? I
Oh,
don't feel like I've
yes. Yeah,
abused my vagina at all. I haven't used her as a tool like you have.
sure.
I mean, I think it's really powerful. Now, I'm not saying, oh, hold on, every time your husband or partner comes towards you and says, hey, can we have sex or can we make love? That you have to be like, okay, hold please. I need 15 minutes to connect with my vagina to see if this is the right time for us. I, the moment might pass. However, I do think it's really important to have that relationship. Okay, so let's move this into what happens in that dialogue when your husband or partner comes to you and says, I want to have sex, or that sex drive is there and you don't have it. Have I told you about the Laguna Beach story about Alex and me?
No.
So we had been dating for maybe 5 years. I moved to Laguna to start a business. He stayed in San Francisco. We both knew it was fine. We didn't break up or anything. And I learned something about sex with that distance. And it was, and this is weird, the only way he could emotionally connect with me when he showed up at my house or vice versa. If I wanted emotional connection with him, I needed to have physical connection with him.
Hmm.
Now, the opposite was true for me. In order for me to actually want to have a physical connection with him, i.e., have sex, I needed to have an emotional connection. So my preference would be to say, "Hi, let's go have dinner. Let's hold hands. Let's walk home. And then maybe we'll have sex. Or maybe tomorrow, maybe Saturday morning, it'll feel better. I feel more emotionally connected to you." And yet he couldn't. And not that he's a sex fiend. Like, I'm not saying that, but I just started looking at when it was easiest for him to be emotional with me was after we had had physical intimacy. And I do talk about that quite a bit with people because is it me selling myself short and saying, "Oh, well, just put out and then you'll get the emotions?" Or is it me saying, "No, we're going to talk and I'm going to make you talk to me before I," right? Two different ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
Now, I made the choice that it was easier for me to have sexual intimacy with him right away to then have, I mean, we only had like 48 hours together
Mhm.
because he would come down for a weekend or I'd go up for a weekend. I mean, every 3 weeks. I mean, this is not a lot of seeing
Wow.
each other
Yeah.
after being together for 5 years. So I realized that in those 48 hours, I had a choice. If I just put out, and I know it sounds horrible, but if I just put out, now, mind you, I always got an orgasm out of it. It wasn't like I was just humping him and having sex and being like, "Oh, poor me." I was getting an orgasm too. So we would have physical intimacy. And then for the rest of the 47 hours and 45 minutes,
But who's counting?
it would be emotional connection. But I mean, it wasn't like we were having sex for 5 hours. Let's just be honest. So
Sorry, Alex.
I don't know many couples that do, especially after not seeing each other for
3
3 weeks. I mean,
weeks. Yeah.
wasn't like we were, it was just more of like, okay, and we were intimate. Okay, it was an hour. Let's just say it was an hour of intimacy. I was just being a
Look
brat.
at Jen trying to be generous
I
now.
know. I'm like, okay, now it's an hour. So 30 minutes, whatever. And then it would improve. So I think that is one way of looking at it is
Mm.
what does my husband need or what does my partner need? I say husband because I have one. I'm not saying anyone needs a husband
Yeah.
when you have a difference of sexual need or desire in a relationship, I think it's really important to say, what is the purpose? Does someone in the relationship need a sexual or a stress release? I mean, there are many times when Alex just says, "I'm going to give you an orgasm." I'm like, "No, no, I don't need one." He's all, "You need one." And then he doesn't really make it an option, and I have an orgasm, which is hugely beneficial. So I think it depends. You got to figure out what are you needing? Where are you in your life? I know I'm rambling, but what do you have to say?
No, you're doing great. And this different perspective just occurred to me
Mm.
in how you're describing that. Because going on a first date with an aggressive man who you're afraid of being raped by, speaking
Oh,
from experience, and you put out because you don't feel like you have a choice, that
oh,
is you putting out
shoot.
because you don't feel like you have a choice. I was single for a long time, and my picker was way the hell off, as we've already just established in this conversation.
Whew.
But actually, what's occurring to me right now
Mm.
is the difference between men and women in, like, let's say, a love language. Because what you're describing, I think, is very
Mm.
common. My husband has described that same thing to me many times, and our lack of sex has him feel quite unloved by me, even though
Yeah.
I cherish that man. I don't
Yeah.
think I could love him more. But he
Yeah.
feels unconvinced in certain ways exactly because of this. So it could be like, look, I need to eat now and you're not exactly hungry, but if you eat now with like it could be this is just us being considerate of meeting each other's needs.
I'm really happy that you used the word eat. That's hilarious. So,
I want to make a joke. I think you might need an orgasm, Jen. You're a little stressed over there that you're punchy.
I'm so punchy. It's been a really hard week.
Aw, I'm
I'm
sorry,
so
honey.
glad to be
Yeah,
talking to you right now. Okay, yeah, but I think that's a good, I think that is actually
but
a
I'm
really good
bummed.
example is
Yeah.
do make choices. I mean, there's plenty of times when I just want to have a bowl of cereal and my husband wants a steak dinner. Eh, It's, I mean, and that's natural. And I think if we can begin to talk about it more or look at it more from that perspective, like you were saying, how
Hmm.
much different wouldn't we have approached it, but also how much different wouldn't the conversations be? I don't have issues talking with my husband, well, pretty much about anything, but like I don't really have issues, and I would imagine most listeners don't have issues about talking about what's for dinner. I need this. I want this. I'm craving this. So why don't we use those same phrases when we're talking about sex? I need this. I'm craving this. I really want that. I'm feeling bloated. I'm not going to eat dinner today. Well, okay. I'm feeling bloated. I don't want to have sex today. That's an okay statement. I'm feeling stressed. I need an orgasm. I need to connect with you physically. I feel like we haven't been, I mean, all of that. Okay. I digress.
I love what you're saying, and you're talking about and describing partnership. This all would have been a really foreign concept to me before I got married. My husband has, bless that poor man's heart, has put up with a lot in the last 19 years to help
Yeah.
me grow into an individual that can participate more or less in like a solid and dynamic partnership. And I don't mean I mean dynamic as in moving and growing. Something that came to me when you were saying that
Hmm.
and how I'm relating to what you're saying is I brought to my marriage a long history of being used. And just to tell on myself, when my husband would try to initiate sex, I would be super picky about how he did it. And he's a scientist, so he's coming from this cerebral mindset. But
Very
this
left brain. Yeah.
immediate thing would come up for me about being used for my vagina. And I'd be like, no, no, no. Like I was quick because I was in self-protection mode. This
Hmm.
had nothing to do with this beautiful man who was actually extremely respectful of my boundaries. This is just the trash that I was left with from this whole long sordid history that I didn't sort out and heal yet. I didn't have a developed sense of that, well, that's just me. He's not using me. Anyway, so for all of us in a partnership, distinguishing that, where does this stuff come from? This is my baggage from way long ago. This person is not trying to use me. This person is trying to love me, share something with me. And now my husband, I think that he's on this little bit of a soapbox of, first of all, and we had talked earlier about he doesn't want me to try to heal myself in my vagina so that I can set us up for him to use my vagina as a tool, or
Hmm.
however we talked about that earlier. I need to want to heal for myself. And he wants me to heal. So he's really with me on that. And I forgot what else I was going to say, but I do kind of want to make a joke like if he was going to use me for sex, I have completely starved him out. He's definitely not doing that.
So,
But there's a level of communication that in some ways
mm.
feels to me like it squeezes all of the romance and all of the love story stuff in my head about sex and relationship. Like all of that is gone because we've had to talk so much about this.
The love story is a bullshit.
Oh, total
I mean,
bullshit.
I just wish more kids heard the story of love is work. It doesn't have to be hard work, but it
Yeah.
is work. Sex and intimacy and maintaining that spark within a relationship,
Oh,
it can be nearly impossible at times.
yeah.
And I wish I had heard that. I mean, you read romance novels because you need a break from your reality, but what does that then put into what you believe your reality should be? How do they approach you? Do you get taken out on dates? Did he come home with flowers? Does he compliment me? Do I look good in this outfit? Did I eat broccoli and I'm gassy? And if he's going to go down on me, I'm going to fart in his face. I mean, those are real things. I mean, Alex was like, "What's going on up there or down there?" I'm all, I just feel like I'm going to fart. Just hold on. All of that stuff is like partnership conversations. And
Yeah.
if you can encourage one another to have those conversations, and yeah, it does take away some of that intimacy, it'll make it more intimate in the future, right?
I love
I,
that. Yes. And you're right. Love is a verb in relationships. It's great to have that feeling, but that also includes the doing of things, right?
mm,
And it just occurred, I mentioned about fully reveal was a spiritual message I got when I was debating about coming out about this chapter of my life. And it just occurred to me, actually, that's partnership. Fully revealing yourself as much as human. I'm shocked at the level of honesty that Grant and I are able to. I never would have, I mean, I had stuff from my family dynamic that we didn't really speak the truth to people. People would take that personally. It would never go well.
most parents, when we were all raised that way. I mean, I was
Okay.
told to
Yeah,
cool
fair
it
enough.
and to be quiet and
Yeah.
dip it and focus and stop bouncing off the walls. And Jenny, that was what they called me, Jenny. I mean,
Mm.
there was no acceptance of any of this, right? If my father knew that I was doing this podcast, you should have heard what he said when I was like, I can talk to dead people. He's all, I'm pretty sure he was like, I picked up the wrong child. This is not my child. I'm pretty sure my mother has actually said that at times. And my mom's one of my best friends. My mom's like, you, this, no. Mm-mm. I'm pretty sure I picked up the wrong kid. All right, we got to wrap this up.
Yeah. So I think maybe a takeaway
Mm-hmm.
is whatever you're doing, not letting shame encourage you to hide and, sorry, this is what's coming to me, rot away in the corner. That we're, in an AA term, is we're as sick as our secrets. That's a good one, isn't it? And
Shivers.
excuse my language, but what? Fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't accept yourself for who you are and what you did, then start trying to. I have been on a very long and honestly very fucking painful journey to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do that with myself. And I still have a long way to go, but it's a journey worth being on. All of you deserve to be loved by yourself first and foremost. And when you're okay with yourself, it's amazing what we can do and be and how we can manage ourselves in the world. It's really a very different experience.
Well, and I just got a huge like glow. Like when we are
Hmm.
true to ourselves and when we love ourselves, or even if
Yes.
we're working on loving ourselves, you
Yes.
don't have to go from A to Z tomorrow. It's there's 26 letters in the alphabet. Take the 24 steps in between A and Z. When we do that and the process of doing that, we just start glowing. And then we attract more glow and we get
Yeah,
more light, right? The more light we have, the more light we attract. So, yay. Okay, really good takeaway.
absolutely.
As a reminder to everyone, you can watch this on YouTube if you want to watch it to see my antics, crazy hand movements. You'd swear I was Italian. And you can email us at any time, vaginawhispering@gmail.com. You can check out the website, which is minimal right now, but we're going to be working on that, vaginawhispering.com. And yeah, so excited.
Yeah, if you have any topics that you're interested
Yeah.
in or suggestions, please do email us. We honestly want to hear from you. We really
Hmm.
do.
Yeah, because this
So,
topic was sparked by one of our listeners,
yeah,
which is wonderful.
yes. So, thank you for joining us today. We love having you here, bringing this conversation to you, and let's just all keep it real together and sending you guys love.
Love. Bye.
Bye.